From Noble Search to the Concept of Four Noble Truths for Mind Development by Venerable Rung Ruang Papa's Sorrow. Dr. Rung Ruang Lim Chu Patipa. In Arayapariyasana Sutta, the Buddha explained that all beings in this world were in trouble with suffering because of the repeated cycle of all beings in birth, aging, sickness, death, sorrow, due to defilements. The karma of evil doing with defilement is the driving force that pushes forward the cycle of birth, aging, sickness, death, sorrow. And the only way to make an end of suffering on life is to look for the noble search of the way to achieve the unborn supreme security from bondage, so-called nibbana. The Buddha first introduced the concept of the Four Noble Truths as the method to reach the noble search in this sutra as follows. The methodology starts with having a clear definition of problem. First, by looking closely at what are subject to the cycle of the problem of birth, aging, sickness, death, sorrow, defilement, respectively, and then exploring to how one is tied to these things, saying what is the root cause of problem, that infatuated with them and utterly absorbed in them, being himself subject to birth, to sorrow and defilement, seeks what it also subject to birth, to sorrow and defilement. Clearly, the goal of this noble search is to resolve these following problems to reach certain solutions, such as: what is subject to birth, having understood the danger in what is subject to birth, seeks the unborn supreme security from bondage, nibbana. What is subject to aging, having understood the danger in what is subject to aging, he seeks the unaging supreme security from bondage, nibbana. What is subject to sickness, having understood the danger in what is subject to sickness, he seeks the unailing supreme security from bondage, nibbana. What is subject to death, having understood the danger in what is subject to death, he seeks the deathless supreme security from bondage, nibbana. What is subject to sorrow, having understood the danger in what is subject to sorrow, he seeks the sorrow-less supreme security from bondage, nibbana. What is subject to defilement, he seeks the undefiled supreme security from bondage, nibbana. The final part of the Four Noble Truths is to take the Eight Noble Paths to achieve the goal of life by the destruction of all defilements in life. The unwholesome cycle of life is caused by defilements that lead to birth, aging, sickness, death, and sorrow, respectively. Typically, the ignorance of the truths of life within nature by focusing only on the acquisition of wealth, fame, and power will only entwine an individual into the bondage with birth, aging, sickness, death, and defilements in the never-ending cycle of life. And as long as we are subject to such defilement, there is no way we can avoid this troubling cycle of birth, aging, sickness, death, sorrow without cleansing all defilements. Therefore, the ultimate goal of noble search in Buddhism is to purify the mind, so that the life will be liberated. Although the goal to destruct defilements was quite well known among priests of different religions, but the methodology to accomplish such objective was questionable, and in this circumstance, he had to find the path and way to enlightenment. In searching for the noble truths, so-called the path and way to enlightenment, the Buddha went to many schools and performed various kinds of tradition meditations, especially the mantra meditation by dwelling into deep absorption in Brahman practice, such as the base of nothingness, the base of infinity of space, emptiness, the base of neither perception nor non-perception, and the base of consciousness as infinite. However, the Buddha realized that these conventional mantra meditations were not the way to enlightenment. It is very important to realize that having mere faith alone, and with energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom, still they are not sufficient to gain the enlightenment, but it is necessary to perform the insight observation as the path and way for enlightenment as well. In searching for the path and way to enlightenment, although the Buddha had experimented all kinds of conventional mantra meditation by forcing the mind to reach several bases, but he found out that performing such mantra meditation could only contain the defilement temporarily for a while during the meditation. The mantra meditation will only force the mind to be in a certain specific base, but it would not lead the path and way to enlightenment, while the Buddhist meditation will enlighten the mind to explore on how the mind functioning in the process of dependent origination to gain wisdom for the destruction of the taints. Therefore, the Buddha shifted the meditation to establish mindfulness in the insight observation to study on the mind to gain the real knowledge for wisdom development. And this is the reason why in Buddhism, the insight study inside the mind to gain wisdom is called the path and way to enlightenment. The noble search starts with studying the nature of life by considering if we are subject to births, then investigating further the outcomes of such birth, that is, associated aging, sickness, death, sorrow, and defilement, respectively. Clearly, before the Enlightenment, the description of the cycle of life is limited to the birth, aging, sickness, death, sorrow, and defilement. The Buddha seemed to have a clear understanding of the goal to stop the cycle of birth, aging, sickness, death, sorrow, and defilement. Therefore, he tried to study from many schools to experiment if they had any knowledge to achieve this goal. After realizing that none of them could earn the success, the Buddha left the schools and arrived at Uruvela near Sananagama, where the Buddha discovered the path and way to enlightenment. In the Buddha enlightenment, by establishing mindfulness, he performed insight observation into the mind and saw the detailed mind processing as it really was, so-called the process of dependent origination, that is, starting from stimulus making contact through 6 sense bases: feeling, craving, cling, becoming in existence, birth, decay and death, ignorance, volitional formations, consciousness, name and form, respectively. After seeing the process of dependent origination, then applying the Four Noble Truths to the process of dependent origination, then the Buddha, clearly understanding that the object of consciousness with defilements, so-called taint, caused suffering in life, and the origin of the taints was at craving, clinging, and ignorance, and the way to terminate the bondage of such cycle of suffering was to liberate the object of consciousness, so that the life would reach the supreme security from bondage, the Nibbana. In the Buddha enlightenment, he discovered the nature of life in terms of the process of dependent origination, which was the fundamental cycle of birth, aging, sickness, and death of the object of consciousness. And by being able to terminate this process of dependent origination, then all kinds of suffering in life were terminated as well. The Buddha explained that the acquisitions of wife and children, men and women slaves, goats and sheep, fowl and pigs, elephants, cattle, horses and mares, gold and silver are subject to birth, aging, sickness, and death, to sorrow and defilement. And one who is tied to these things, infatuated with them, and utterly absorbed in them, being himself subject to birth, to sorrow and defilement, seeks what it also subject to birth, to sorrow and defilement. Clearly, the disenchantment, the dispassion, the cessation of the birth, aging, sickness, death, sorrow, and defilement of the bondage of the unwholesome mind is the way to make an end of suffering in life. Many people may overestimate the definition of the enlightenment as the preservation restricted for the Buddha only. However, as a matter of fact, the Buddha kindly did elaborated the disadvantage of the conventional practice, and then he took away all of those unnecessary practices out because those did not lead to enlightenment. As latter he explained the right practice in the Buddhist practice of the footprint of the Buddha. However, after the Buddha passed away for several hundreds of years, those mantra practice were embedded into the Buddhist practice, claiming as a shortcut way to reach the supreme security from bondage, Nibbana. This kind of teaching tries to promote the study on the Buddha Suttas and confuses many Buddhists nowadays about the way of the right practice of the footprint of the Buddha. The Buddha explained that the noble search is the search for the path and way to enlightenment, and by gaining the knowledge for the destruction of all defilements, then the mind is fully developed. The success in mind development can be viewed in 2 successful associated achievements: the mind purification and the mind liberation. The term mind purification is to address the necessary to put great efforts to completely cleanse all the defilements of the rough defilements, greed, hatred, and delusion, the middle defilements, the 5 lower fetters, and the finest defilements, the taints in the process of dependent origination, out from the mind, so that the mind is fully purified. While the term mind liberation is to address a special condition when the mind is able to release all the objects of consciousness associated with the 5 aggregates of being, form, feeling, perception, volitional formations, and consciousness, so-called the cessation of the 5 aggregates of being. Typically, after the mind is fully purified, then all the tasks that should be done, cleansing all defilements, are done, and by then the mind will be able to be liberated from all kinds of stimuli from the world, including the associated internal objects of consciousness within the mind processing. That is, there is no more renewed existence of the object of consciousness, and as a final result of mind development the life will reach the supreme security from bondage, nirvana, as follows.
When friend is thus liberated in mind, even if powerful forms, sounds, flavors, tactile objects, and mental phenomena, cognizable by the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind, come into range of his eye, They do not obsess his mind. His mind remains uncontaminated, steady, attained to imperturbability. I do not perceive even one other thing that is as unwieldy and harmful as an undeveloped mind. An undeveloped mind is truly unwieldy and harmful. I do not perceive even one other thing that is as wieldy and beneficial as a developed mind. An undeveloped mind is truly wieldy and beneficial. I do not perceive even one other thing that when undeveloped and uncultivated entails such great suffering as the mind. I do not perceive even one other thing that when developed and cultivated entails such great happiness as the mind, being myself subject to birth. Having understood the danger in what is subject to birth, seeking the unborn supreme security from bondage, nirvana I attained the unborn supreme security from bondage. Being myself subject to aging, sickness, death, sorrow, defilement. Having understood the danger in what is subject to birth, seeking the unaging, unailing, deathless, sorrowless, undefiled supreme security from bondage, nirvana, I attained the unborn supreme security from bondage. The knowledge and vision arose in me. The liberalization is unshakable. This is my last birth. Now there is no more renewed existence.